Welcome to the Politicrat. I'm Omar. It is Wednesday, September the 16th, 2020. On this edition of the Politicrat, 4 great women. You'll be hearing from Senator Kamala Harris, Secretary of State Hillary Rodham Clinton, Maya Rudolph, and Amy Poehler in excerpts from a fundraiser that they did for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Those excerpts are coming up next. On Monday of this week, Senator Kamala Harris, Secretary of State Hillary Rodham. On Monday of this week, Senator Kamala Harris, former Secretary of State Hillary Rodham Clinton, and Maya Rudolph and Amy Poehler got together for a grassroots fundraiser for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. It was hilarious, very funny, and also at times quite serious. What you're going to hear now are excerpts from that fundraiser.
So our first speaker today is someone who really understands how much each vote matters. She has spent her life serving our country as a lawyer and an advocate for kids and families, as First Lady, fighting for children's health care and women's equality, as a U.S. Senator, standing up for the needs of 9/11 first responders, as a Secretary of State, taking on our world's most complex challenges, and as the first woman to be a major party's nominee for president. And as someone who has gotten the privilege to work with her and meet her, I can also confirm that she is downright hilarious. It is my privilege to introduce a personal hero of mine and a trailblazer for so many, Hillary Rodham Clinton. Secretary Clinton, the floor is yours.
Oh, Amy, thank you so much. You know, having you and Maya here with Kamala and me is a real life imitates art moment that I am relishing. And before we get into the serious stuff, I want to thank you both for the documentary you recently made about life in America during the pandemic. I'm talking, of course, about wine country. It really did land exactly where it was needed. I want to welcome everyone to this fundraiser. And I want to tell you that there are more than 100,000 people who are part of this event tonight. And because of all of you, the Biden-Harris campaign has raised more than $6 million, and the average donation is less than $30. So this has been an amazing success, thanks to everybody who has chipped in, because you've got to admit, this campaign can't exist without all of you. It is fueled by grassroots supporters and donors, and it is thrilling that the campaign continues to get the kind of support that is necessary in order to win in November, not only for Joe and Kamala to win, but up and down the ballot for Democrats to win across the country. You know, my heart just goes out to all of our friends and really everyone on the West Coast. California, Oregon, Washington are suffering so dramatically from the wildfires right now. And the impact on every person has been, just extraordinarily terrible. Not only those who have lost lives and loved ones and property, but the air quality and the danger and the fear. And so I'm just grateful that today Joe Biden delivered a compelling, powerful speech about climate change, because we all know that it is driving the intensity of these fires, and we have to deal with it. Along with our pandemic, a very serious set of health issues, the ongoing moral reckoning with racism and violence. You know what we're up against, but I don't think the current incumbent of the White House seems to know, or more importantly, to care. The Woodward tapes are stunning. You know, we've heard tapes of presidents before, but we've never heard a president who deliberately kept information from the American people that could have saved lives and misery. So we need a president and a vice president who will show the kind of compassion, determination, and leadership that is so desperately missing and needed right now. And so I'm here to support this campaign and to support, both Joe and Kamala, because I'm thrilled how committed they are to doing what needs to be done to build back better and to really win this contest for the soul of our nation. Kamala Harris leads with her values. You saw the short video about, growing up as she did, the daughter of Black and South Asian immigrants, a child of the civil rights era. She has been relentless in the pursuit of justice and equity. And just like Joe Biden, she really understands deep in her gut that America's diversity is our greatest strength. And they are committed to making our country fairer and more inclusive. Kamala is ready to step into the White House as vice president from day one. She's tough and trustworthy. She's held powerful people accountable throughout her career. I've been so pleased and riveted to watch her go toe-to-toe with a lot of the members of the Trump administration who appear before her in the Senate. She also is for the people. I love that. She ran for DA to create change from the inside. She has fought for victims of crime, and she has stood up for those who are weak and marginalized too often in the criminal justice system, women, children, LGBTQ, and so much more. There's been a lot of heartbreak these last 4 years, but people ask me all the time, are we going to get out of this? Are we going to be able to fix everything that's been broken? I am really hopeful. I believe that Joe and Kamala will bring our country together, repair the damage, bring smart, solutions-oriented leadership back to the White House. And I love to think about all the young people who see themselves in Kamala as she makes history. So I could not be prouder or more excited to support these two, and I'm going to do everything I can for the remaining weeks, and I hope you will too. I hope you will go to iwillvote.com, and there you can get all the information you need to cast your ballot. I hope you will ask your friends and your family members to do the same. If you can, vote early. That's easy and convenient. If you're going to vote by mail, mail it early. Make sure everyone you know has a plan to vote. Encourage them to identify their early voting location now or request their vote by mail ballot today, tomorrow, as soon as possible. This is not an election that any of us can afford to sit out. And so now it's my pleasure to introduce the next Vice President of the United States, or at least the woman who plays her on TV. Over to you, Maya Rudolph.
Oh, my goodness. Thank you, Secretary Clinton. That was dream come true. Dream come true. Our second guest is another extraordinary leader who has championed women and working families throughout her career. Kamala Harris never shrinks from a fight for what's right. Just ask Big Oil or the gun lobby or Brett Kavanaugh. As an attorney general and as a U.S. senator, Kamala has fought tirelessly to be a voice for the voiceless. In the Senate, she has passed laws to tackle climate change, co-sponsored legislation to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour and held the Trump administration accountable in a way no one else could. And in November, she is going to make history as the first woman and first woman of color to serve as our nation's vice president. Please welcome Senator Kamala Harris.
Thank you, Maya. Thank you. First of all, let me just start by thanking Maya and Amy. You are both so incredibly talented as artists, but you not only have accomplished so much because of that talent, you both always take that extra step to speak up and to speak out and to use your voice in a way that is about speaking for the people of our country and where we can be as a country. And I just appreciate you for that courage on top of all of the talent that you bring to our country, because this is a time when we do need everyone to step up and speak out, and you both have done that consistently, and I'm so grateful to you. And so on behalf of Joe and myself, I just want to thank you both for being a part of tonight and for everything you do to bring us such joy, but also for what you do to remind people of what's at stake. And now let me talk a little bit about the incredible Hillary Clinton. So Hillary, I mean, you are just absolutely extraordinary. You have always been a model of what it means to have leadership in our country that puts the country ahead of everything else. You have been someone who has been a role model to so many of us as women. You know, my mother said often to my sister Maya and me, you may be the first to do many things, make sure you're not the last. And you have always been that person who not only has broken so many glass ceilings, as you have said, shattering all of those shards that may fall. You do it with such grace, and you always do it in a way that is about creating a path for others to follow. I say to many people, I mentor many people, you have mentored so many, Hillary. And the thing about breaking barriers, some people might think breaking barriers means you start on one side of the barrier and you just show up on the other side of the barrier. But that's not what happens. Breaking barriers involves breaking things. And when you break things, sometimes you get cut. It's painful. It's worth it every single time, but it is not without an extraordinary amount of courage and effort. And Hillary, you have broken so many barriers and have shown America its potential. And so I just want to thank you publicly, as I hope I do often enough privately, on behalf of myself and so many of the women and men that you have inspired because of your years of leadership and public service and sacrifice. So thank you, Hillary Rodham Clinton, for everything you are and everything you do, and for being a part of this. And I also want to thank everyone for this grassroots fundraiser. This is just an extraordinary, I think, display of a democracy, and certainly how Joe and I feel about this election, which is everyone matters, and it doesn't matter where you live, it doesn't matter how much money you have, we're all in this together, and a democracy is strong when everyone participates and everyone knows that they belong. And that is certainly the energy that is fueling our campaign. But each of you, having given whatever you can this evening to be a part of this, is a part of what we are doing to say that we will fight for the soul of our country, that we love our country, that this is a fight born out of love of country. And it is a fight born out of knowing we are better than this. And we are capable of so much. And so I thank everyone for being a part of this evening, and I think we should just get started. California is experiencing, since our founding, the worst fire, an accumulation of, I think it's 5 of the worst fires in the history of our state. In just recent history have we experienced. The Paradise Fire. Hillary, I went there when it wiped out a whole community, Paradise, California. so much so that, and I was there when the embers were still smoldering, and all that was left of all of those homes were their chimneys. It really looked like tombstones, and the community of people that were there it was a tight-knit community. It was an incredible community, and most of the people were evacuated and did survive. And yet again, it's Butte County in California has been ravaged again. And so folks are, on top of that, and then COVID, experiencing just repeated tragedies. And so I will be going to California to meet with also our firefighters, our first responders. I've met firefighters who are fighting fires while their own homes are burning. The kind of sacrifice that they make is extraordinary. But it just speaks to the reality of it. And this is what is just the crime, frankly, of the Trump administration, which is the crime of ignoring science across the board, whether it be COVID or the climate crisis. The fact is that we are in the midst of an incredible crisis because our climate is changing in drastic form, which is leading to California burning in many places, which is leading to storms hitting our Gulf Coast repeatedly year after year and getting worse. And we have a president in Donald Trump who has pretty much denied the science, and even today could not, with full voice, speak to the fact that we have to address this, and we have to address it around projection of what is predictable in terms of not only drought but electrical fires based on lightning, which is part of what we saw in California. Millions of lightning strikes over a 72-hour period also contributed to these fires. And there's work that can be done. Part of Joe and my initiative and intention is to build up toward clean energy by 2050, a clean energy economy by 2050. It's about an investment in infrastructure and renewable energies. And guess what? This is about jobs. It's about job creation. What we need to do to build up infrastructure around water. In terms of drought, I know this is a native Californian, and that's again about jobs that are created when we build up water infrastructure around the collection of water, the storage of water, much less what we can do around conservation and recycling. But it is not only California, by the way. Oregon and Washington State are being equally battered by this, and the federal government has a very important role to play, but the leadership really has to start at the top, and that's one of the reasons we need to elect Joe Biden the next president.
So here's what I'm wondering. What advice do you have for Kamala? And while I'm confident she will be more than ready, do you have any tips on how she should prepare?
Well, I am sure she's not only going to be ready, but she's going to do a terrific job. We've seen her in action in the Senate and elsewhere. But I think this is such an unusual setup, and she'll have people who have gone through it with me or with President Obama or others who have also been prepared for those general election debates. And you literally have to be able to respond to what the moderator has to ask you, but also respond to whatever your opponent on the stage is saying or doing. So you've got to have almost 360-degree awareness because, as I found in 2016 with Trump, he could have cared less about answering the questions or even giving accurate information. He came prepared to insult, to bully, to loom over the presence. And I think that that's probably what he'll try to do to Vice President Biden. I think that what Mike Pence will try to do is somehow subtly undercut Kamala. Try to say, well, that's not the way it's done, or that's not what we expect, or that's not what we believe, trying to somehow put her in the box of, the inexperienced woman candidate. And she's not going to stand for that, and she's not going to put up with it, and she has to modulate her responses, because we know there still is a double standard alive and well when it comes to women in politics. So she's got to be firm and effective in rebutting any implication that comes from the other side, but to do it in a way that doesn't, scare or alienate voters. So it's a process that she will master during preparation, and I'm looking forward to seeing her on the stage do an incredible job of putting forth what she and Joe want to do, defending her record and what she's accomplished, and calling out the failures, the innumerable failures of the Trump-Pence administration.
Hear, hear. Just because Maya and I are in comedy doesn't mean that we're experts on it, but how does one keep their sense of humor during these times? And how important is it to have one?
It's a good point that it's for all of us, Amy, I have to say. My dad always says, life will give you lots of things to be unhappy about. Why create more? And that's been my feeling throughout this entire pandemic. I am trying so hard to find the good and fight for what is best and most important. And I only know how to do that through humor most of the time. So I'm usually doing something to make my children laugh. Although I have to say, going through a pandemic with children is amazing. They are so adaptive. They are incredible. They're resilient. They remind me to be present. And I know these are things we always hear people say, but we are truly living in a time where I am so appreciative of what I've got. And also, I know very well that things need to be so much better for all of us and for their futures. But we are trying to laugh throughout. We're trying to, we have themed dinners sometimes. We had a Disneyland themed dinner one night. That was fun.
Didn't you guys pretend you were on an airplane?
That's correct. We pretended we were on an airplane. We were all in first class, which was great. So
you all sat with your own iPads.
We all got our own iPads. Yeah.
Yes. To echo Maya's point, I do think that humor can unite us, and it can remind us of our humanness. And somebody who has a sense of humor about themselves, especially, is not only a sign of intelligence, but I think really smart people are also, in many ways, empathetic and vulnerable people, and those make great leaders. So if you can laugh at yourself, it often is a sign that you're a confident leader. And I think that we've found that the pandemic has brought us together, certainly, and a lot of people have turned towards their favorite shows to comfort them when they're scared. So I know that Maya and I are both very grateful that we've had the experience of making things that hopefully has given people some relief during what is a very, very scary time for a lot of people.
Absolutely.
You make such an important point, Amy, about being able to laugh at yourself and not take either yourself or anything else so seriously that you lose your perspective. And there's lots of opportunities for that in a campaign because the stakes are high and it often seems like, things are not going as well as they should. So you've got to find those moments during the day to make fun of yourself, of somebody else, of, the shoes you're wearing or the latest hairdo you're sporting or whatever it might be. And I was struck the other night listening to one of the interviews about, the books that are being written about Donald Trump. And somebody said he has no sense of humor. And it struck me. I've never seen him laugh. I've never, ever seen him make fun of himself. Certainly not his hairdo. That's, something I'm quite experienced in. And it is really telling that part of the cruelty and the indifference and just the plain meanness that we see on a regular basis from him is in part because he has no sense of humor. And, you know, he loves putting people down, not lifting them up. And so sharing a joke, having a laugh, you know, that's just not part of his vocabulary. I don't know. Kamala, have you experienced that too with them?
I totally agree with you, Hillary. There is nothing joyful about him. Mm-hmm. There is nothing about him that inspires joy. And it's such a shame, really. I mean, on one level, you just have to feel like, everyone should have something in their life that gives them the ability to smile, a genuine smile. But I think that's also is more not, when we talk about having a sense of humor about ourselves, and I laugh all the time about and, but there is also something about that's about kindness, right? Which is, and, I often say to people who are going through a moment of suffering, and it could be, that they've lost someone they love or, some kind of loss. And part of my advice always is find a way to be kind to yourself.
Right.
Yeah. Right. And having a sense of humor about oneself is also about kind of just being kind to yourself, like not taking it too seriously. Like, yeah, that was a ridiculous situation that I just found myself in, right? And I see how it happened. But if you take yourself too seriously, you're never going to get to that point. And it is unfortunate. But yeah, the pandemic has been, it does require you to really reconcile, because I think actually that's also what has caused people to be extra aware of what's happening in our country and our world right now, because all the noise and the distractions that otherwise existed, they're just not there. People are at home, they're with their families. And I think that this is a moment where, and coming up 50 days in this election, people are understanding the significance of those things that were seemingly small but are so big. Maya, to your point, when you talk about your children, when you talk about family, when you talk about what's in your immediate life, understanding and putting a priority on all of that, including your health, including, the blessings that we have. And it might be the blessing of having a job, the blessing of having good health, the blessing of being able to be with your family in a moment of crisis, as opposed to what so many people in our country have experienced, those almost 200,000 lives that have been lost during the COVID, and many of whom were not with their families in their last days because of the restrictions of the virus. So I think there is also that, and these things are all connected. Understand the blessings and being thankful for what you do have, and it's an extension of kindness also.
These are great points. I like talking to you guys a lot, by the way. I just wanted to say this is already really fun. Okay. This is for Kamala. Most of the people who are here with us today are going to vote. And I mean, let's be honest, who'd go to a grassroots fundraiser without having made a plan to cast your ballot at iwillvote.com? That would be slightly foolish. But I'm sure everyone here has a friend or a family member who they're not convinced is really going to make their voice heard in November. So, Kamala, what should we be saying to those people to make sure they turn out?
Well, first, this is probably the most important election of our lifetime, and every issue that you can think of that impacts your life will potentially be decided by the outcome of this election. So let's start with health care. Over 6 million people contracted this virus, and health experts are telling us that we still don't know the long-term effects of having contracted COVID if you are fortunate enough to live through it. Okay, so what does this have to do with the election, Kamala? Well, Donald Trump has his lawyer, who is acting like his personal lawyer, even though he's the Attorney General of the United States, Bill Barr, in the United States Supreme Court right now, trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act, which President Obama and Vice President Joe Biden pushed through, which brought health care to at least 20 million Americans that did not have it. And equally important, said that you can no longer ban people with pre-existing conditions like diabetes, like high blood pressure, like pregnancy from having access to health care. The Affordable Care Act said our kids up to the age of 26 can be on our plan. And by the way, Doug and I have a senior in high school. Many of these kids coming out of high school, and she's in college. Many of these kids coming out of high school and college right now don't know if they're going to have jobs when they graduate because of this pandemic and the economic catastrophe that has resulted. So the idea of kids up to the age of 26 being on their parents' health coverage is very significant. All of that will be wiped out if Donald Trump gets his way with the court case that they've got trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. So why does your vote matter? Because when you vote, you can determine the outcome of an issue like that. Let's talk about why your vote matters from a different perspective. We just celebrated the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment. Those badass women, excuse my language, those suffragettes, fought and fought and fought for a woman's right to vote. By the way, black women still didn't get the right to vote until 1965. We just celebrated the 19th Amendment that gave women, however, the right to vote. Okay, we just mourn the passing of now one of the greatest heroes and ancestors that we can imagine in recent history, John Lewis, who shed blood on the Edmund Pettus Bridge, fighting for black folks' right to vote. Okay? There are states across our country that are trying to create disincentives, if not actual obstruction, for people to be able to vote, in particular black people, students, Native Americans. And part of the reason that your vote is so important is because people have died for your right to vote, people have fought for your right to vote, and it's important to honor them. But I'm going to give you another reason, which is this. I ask people to sit back and wonder, when Donald Trump is trying to suggest that our elections process has no integrity, when he is pushing false information, when state legislatures are putting in place policies to suppress the vote or to purge voter rolls, I ask that we should sit back and wonder, why are they putting so much effort into trying to dissuade us, in trying to create obstacles for us to vote? Why are they doing that? And the answer is clear. Because they know when we vote, things change. That is our power. When we vote, things change. And so I also would say to our friends, don't let anyone ever take your power from you. Let's all vote.
I'll be honest with you. I really wish I had some sort of amazing technique, but I don't. I really don't. But, in the past, when I started Saturday Night Live, I wasn't an impressionist. So but it is part of the duty of working there to make sure you can impersonate current events or people in the news and or your favorite pop star. And actually, Daryl Hammond was on the show at that time, and he gave me a lot of great advice to play Oprah. I had no idea, and he said, watch the way she ends sentences, the way she speaks goes down, and sort of like that. In terms of Senator Harris, I didn't have an impression because I wasn't walking around my house doing my Kamala, But I think it starts with trying to get someone's voice if you can. I'm that person that when I'm telling a story about someone, when I put in the words that they said, I usually say it in that person's voice. So I tend to mimic the sound of people's voices, or if there are gestures, if there are mannerisms. But there's nothing crazily overt about Senator Harris. But I have to tell you, when I got to Saturday Night Live and they put the wig on me, it was done. Uh-oh, she back.
Well, it is all about the wig, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And I have to say, Maya, you do such an amazing job. And you brought up Daryl, who is an amazing impersonator. And there's been so many great, true impersonators on the show. And I think Maya and I don't really consider ourselves specific impersonators.
That's right.
But as far as preparation, I just kind of do like a Tom Brady, like tons of workouts. I eat really clean. I avoid all nightshades. I hang out with my supermodel wife, and I try to just get a lot of sleep, and take my protein powder, stay away from processed foods, and get ready for the season, because it's, I want to get that ring.
Yeah, you do. Get that ring.
Man, you got a lot of rings from me, Amy. And I was always amazed how you're right. I mean, the wig made such a difference, but so did the clothes. I remember I flew practically all night to get to New York to do it with you, and I walk in, you're wearing one of my outfits. I couldn't believe it. It was just so out-of-body experience time.
It's pretty strange to stand next to the person you're dressed as. Unless you are their identical twin, raised,
my doppelganger. That's what I call you.
Yeah, it's very strange. It's kind of weird.
True. A little quickie. I know you all don't exactly have a lot of free time on your hands, I'm sure these days, but when you do wind down, what have you been doing to stay entertained? So what have you been watching or listening to? Reset that clock. Let's go. 30 seconds on that clock, please.
Kamala, do you have any time to do any of that during the campaign? Are you catching up on anything?
I try, but then I invariably, talk about sleep, just totally sleep deprived. But I love Marvel movies, and so we decided to just start watching them from the beginning. And so starting with Captain America, you got it if you're interested. But anyway, and just going through each one of them. Yeah, that's what I said. That is what I've been doing.
Amazing.
I love it.
Maya?
I too... you know what? I'm not gonna lie. I started exercising.
Good.
And on a regular basis. But I'm not talking about I took a yoga class 5 days a week. In that same sleepless way you're talking about, Kamala. I can't watch anything once my kids are asleep. I pass out. So there's that.
Right.
There's about 5 books on that shelf over there, and they're all bookmarks in the middle, because I open the book when they're asleep and then I pass out. But having time for myself is a rare event, and I'm really enjoying it. But you're good at watching shows, Amy. You're good at keeping up with shows.
I do there's some great stuff to watch right now. I think Michaela Cole's show, I May Destroy You, is a beautiful exploration of consent, and it's a beautiful piece of work. I also loved Sally Rooney's Normal People that was on Hulu, even though my kids kept walking in during all the sex scenes. And I also I talked to our interpreters before we started, but I wanted my kids to learn one thing during this pandemic, so I started to teach them the alphabet, the sign language. So I'm learning, they're learning. I'm sure I'm getting something wrong.
That looks like the alphabet. That's it.
Amy.
We've been learning a letter a day, and they can do it now. And if they learn anything from this, it's that, hopefully.
That's beautiful.
That's so great.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Okay, so 30 seconds or less, guys.
Entertaining. What have you been doing for entertainment?
Well, besides sleeping and being with my grandchildren, I'm not as hardcore as Maya is, but, I'm trying to up the exercise. It's always a challenge. But, I'm doing a lot of that, which I always had excuses not to do before. It's really hard when you're home all day to say to yourself, I just don't have time to exercise. But,
Yeah, I'm assuming we're all lifting heavy these days.
Oh, yeah. I would say
short race.
Yeah.
What are you lifting, Maya?
Probably about 250.
Yeah.
One arm.
Just like the index finger. Just like the Harlem Globetrotters, I'm sort of sitting in on one finger. Going great. My pecs are great.
Right.
I just want to, it's very, very important to me that people know that the mute problem was not on my end, but it had something to do with that I did not screw it up. It did. Right before this, Maya did say, I'm going to mute you. She said, I'm going to get you.
I said, I'm going to get you, sucker. I did.
I thought it was the Russians, but knowing it's Maya, I don't know. I feel maybe worse. I'm not sure.
Oh, Hillary, you said it, not me.
I'm mute. Thank you, everybody, so much. What an amazing time! What a true honor, and what an incredible turnout. Thank you to everybody who
donated. Thank you to everyone here.
And thank you to these three phenomenal women for doing this. There's so many other things you could be doing with your time. And just thank you on behalf of Joe and myself for everything you're doing, and all of us and the 100,000 plus people who are part of tonight. Thank you for tonight, and by extension, the commitment you're making to work for the next 50 days, because on day 51, we do not want to wake up and have any questions or doubts that we could have done more. And my final point is this, and it gets back to what Hillary said. This moment will pass. And years from now, our children, our grandchildren, and others, they will look at us in our eyes, each one of us, and they will ask us, where were you at that moment? And what I know about the group that is here, all 100,000 plus of us, is that our response to that question is going to be so much more than just how we felt at this moment. Our response is going to be about telling them what we did. And what we did is we hung out on this Zoom one night with Maya and Amy and the great Hillary Clinton. We'll tell them about that, but we'll tell them about how we got everyone out to vote early and how we reminded everyone of what's at stake. So I want to thank everyone, and see you soon.
Yes, please go to iwillvote.com and make your own plans to vote, everybody. As Joe says, this is more than an election. It's a battle for the soul of our nation, and I couldn't agree more. Thank you, everyone, so much. What a privilege and what a pleasure.
Thank you, everybody.
This is the best Zoom call of my life, I think.
I hope you found that conversation to be of great fun and also great seriousness, because it is time to vote, folks. Early voting is here. It continues to expand as we have 48 voting days remaining. So it is important that when early voting comes to your state, the first day of early voting, you go to the polls in person if you can, or you fill out your absentee ballot and make sure that you sign it properly and carefully in accordance to your driver's license signature, if you have a driver's license. But make sure that you sign the ballot and mail it back in, or drop it off at a drop box, or drop it into your local Secretary of State's clerk's office, your Board of Elections office, whichever it may be. But do not delay. Make sure you send it in right away, and make sure that you early vote in person if you can, or mail-in ballot. Either one, but not both. Vote once. Vote once. But make sure it's early. Thank you very much for listening to this edition of The Politicrat. I'm Omar.